This is the Fly the W670 podcast. It is season number 3. It is episode 39. The Cubs escape Pittsburgh. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Watch us on the YouTube channel. We're also on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter, Fly the W670. And Crawly, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. And the Cubs did indeed escape Pittsburgh. A wild, wild weekend. This weekend had a little bit of everything.
Dustin, I don't even know where. I'm still kind of just recovering my heart rate. The game had just ended a few minutes ago, and this was insane. Game 1 was supposed to be Jamison Tyone versus the flamethrower Jared Jones. We'll talk more about what happened to Jared, to JMO, but he did not make a start. Javier did versus Jared Jones. There was a 1 hour rain delay, and Javier Assad, he has looked pretty good, but this wasn't his best game, but he didn't get a lot of help from his defense. The very first batter Assad faced, Andrew McCutchen, reaches on an error by Christopher Morel at third. He got Brian Reynolds to fly out, but then Assad walked O'Neill Cruz, which I don't have a problem with. O'Neill Cruz is a one-man wrecking machine.
No,
but then
he had a weekend.
Yeah, but then he walks Rowdy Tellez, who's absolutely awful. He's slashing 179, 239, 214. So the bases were loaded and 1 out for Nick Gonzalez, the Pirates' first-round draft pick in 2020, who was called up right before the game. He singled to score 2 runs, and the Pirates took a 2-1 lead. Assad got out of the inning, but he threw 30 pitches in that first inning, and you knew he probably wasn't going to last long. He seemed to struggle with command throughout the game. You could see his facial expressions. He was frustrated. He was having trouble with his changeup. But he only gave up 1 earned run in 4.1 innings. You know what I mean? So you get in the 5th, you only give up 1 earned run. Not too bad, right?
No, not a horrible performance. He's just been so good so far this year that something like that is not exactly what we're used to. He's kind of been that kind of silent assassin, if you will, for the Cubs.
Exactly. But, the defense was just atrocious. Morel made that error in the first. In the second, with 1 on and 2 outs, Assad made a nice pickoff move that Michael Busch just dropped. That allowed Michael Taylor to reach second. Then to lead off the 4th, Christopher Morel committed his second error of the game. He made a nice play on a ball hit to him by Jared Triolo, but he rushed the throw. He had more time. He should have set himself. We talked to Sarah Sanchez from Bleed Cubby Blue about his defense last podcast. And, he has been doing better as of late. This was just a rough game. And so Assad did go 4.1 innings, gave up 2 runs, 1 earned, 2 walks, and 4 Ks in 4.1 innings. And again, pretty solid considering he didn't have his best stuff.
Right. The only problem is you got to get to that bullpen sooner than you would have wanted to, right?
Absolutely. And the Cubs offense got off to a great start. Cody Bellinger hit a solo home run off Jared Jones in the first inning. Dustin, Bellinger's home run off Jones came on a pitch that was 100.5 miles per hour. So that's the fastest pitch hit for a home run by a Cub since 2008 when pitch tracking became available.
There's going to be all kinds of records in this weekend. I mean, all kinds of good and bad records.
Oh, yeah. Now, the hitters had some opportunities against Jones, but just ran into bad luck. The most evident was in the 4th when Morel and Ian Happ led off with back-to-back singles. Busch struck out, but then Magical hit a deep fly ball that Brian Reynolds made a great play on. And then Miguel Amaya, who's hitting to a ton of bad luck lately, he hit one with an exit velocity of 110.9 miles per hour, and Michael Taylor made a fantastic play on.
It was a fantastic play, yep.
The Cubs were finally able to tie it in the 5th thanks to a defensive miscue by the Pirates. With 1 out, Nico singled. Michael Tauchman flied out for the 2nd out, but Cody Bellinger doubled to right. Brian Reynolds threw it to the relay man. O'Neill Cruz moved over from short to where the second baseman was to take the throw. He guns it to Yasmani Grandal. The throw beats Nico, but Grandal didn't secure the ball with 2 hands, just 1. And so when he tagged Nico's poor face, the ball pops out and gets away. And so the Cubs tied at 2. So now the game is tied at 2 in the bottom of the 5th. Assad got an out, gave up a single, and Ben Brown came into the game, and Brown completely shut the Pirates down, going 3.2 shutout innings, 2 hits, 1 walk, 6 Ks. Now with Brown holding the Pirates down, the Cubs offense got to go to work in the 6th. Michael Busch hit a 1-out double. Magical grounded out for the 2nd out, but Miguel Amaya finally got a single to pass through and score Busch. That gave the Cubs their first lead, 3-2. The Cubs then put up a crooked number in the 7th. Morel, Happ, and Magical drove in runs. They scored 4 in the 7th. And that's what you need, Dustin. You need the offense to keep the line going, giving the bullpen some breathing room.
Absolutely right. Now, with that bullpen, you've got to definitely keep the offense going. You got to keep guys on base because, as we all know, unfortunately, this bullpen is pretty stinky right now.
Yep, the Cubs are up 7-2. Another perfect low level leverage situation for Adbert Alzolay. It didn't look great, even though he didn't give up a run. If you're just looking at the box score, you're like, not too bad. Leadoff batter, Yasmani Grandal doubled. Michael A. Taylor was called out on strikes, but that was because of a bad call by the umpire. That was a gift. Then Andrew McCutchen hits one to deep to left. Ian Happ times it perfectly. They got that short wall out in left field. He brought the home run back into the park. Brian Runnels struck out to end the game. But again, for Alzolay, the execution's still not there. He'd given up a lot of hard contact to double. And again, Ian Happ made a fantastic play to rob McCutchen of that home run. Congrats to Ben Brown on his first major league win, becoming the first Cubs reliever to receive a win while not allowing a run and striking out at least 6 batters in 3.2 or fewer innings since Keegan Thompson, September 21, 2022 in Miami.
Well, this one I think will be remembered as the Ben Brown game. You know, if you just look at it, oh, okay, they won and Assad started. You kind of forget sometimes who comes in there in the middle and does some really great work. And the offense did enough. You know, some of it was lucky, obviously, and then the great play by Ian Happ. That's the thing, man. You know, I'm glad they have finally decided to move Ian Happ down in the order, but keep him in there because his defense is absolutely stellar. And he's going to get something cooking in Pittsburgh because he is just so damn good in Pittsburgh. Right?
Yep, absolutely. Now, in game 2, Justin Steele versus Paul Skenes. What a matchup this one is.
It's supposed to be like the pitching matchups of pitching matchups, like the most marquee pitching matchup the Cubs have had so far this season. Didn't exactly play out that way, Crawly. Didn't exactly play out that way.
Not at all, Dustin. And the weird thing about baseball, you and I have watched hundreds of games. We've been to hundreds of games. And sometimes you just see things you never see your entire life. So there was a lot of things we've never seen that happened on Saturday. Let's start.
Gosh. I mean, honestly, to the point, I'm like, am I really is this really happening? It was like video game or like junior high baseball, like Bronco baseball. Ends up being so bad. Oh,
yeah, you had the rookie sensation, Paul Skenes, making his debut. Skenes went 4 innings, gave up 6 hits. He struck out 7 batters. Dustin, he struck out more than half the batters he faced. Not only that, he hit 100 mile per hour on the radar gun more than 17 times.
Yeah, I thought I saw 19 times. I thought I saw 19 pitches hit over 100 plus. I mean, pretty amazing, and I the other thing that was funny, it reminded me, you might have done this. There were people in the stands with the fake mustaches on, and it reminded me who was the guy? Remember the nuns were wearing
there was
the
2
goatee,
times. Yeah, 2 times that happened. One was Matt Clement, and the other was Matt Garza.
Yeah, it was Clement though. I remember with the nuns, Clement had like that little run where he was like the Cubs' darling, and it was funny to see the fans wearing the fake mustaches in Pittsburgh. And the scary part is we talked about who pitched on Friday night and then who pitched on Saturday afternoon, and we talked about O'Neill Cruz. I mean, the Pirates are coming. The Pirates have some pieces if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, they definitely have a good farm system and great talent. But Dustin, how surprising that the only one to hit a home run off Paul Skenes, who's throwing 100 miles per hour, is Nico Hoerner, right?
Hoerner, right? Yeah.
You can't make that stuff up. Right. Speaking of things we've never seen before, not the greatest outing for Justin Steele in the second game back from the IL.
3 home runs.
Yep.
3 home runs.
Yep. In the third inning with runners at first and second and 2 outs, he gave up a 3-run homer to Connor Joe. We warned you about him in the hot and knots. That's why we do that. The very next batter, O'Neill Cruz, goes back-to-back, and the Cubs were down 4-0. That was the first time in Justin Steele's career that he's given up home runs to consecutive batters. Steele would also give up a 2-run homer to Michael A. Taylor in the fourth. The Cubs are down 6-1. You think this one's over, right?
You would think.
But speaking of things we've never seen before, let's look at the top of the 5th inning. Mike Tauchman doubled and Seiya singled, so the Cubs had 2 on. The Pirates pull Paul Skenes for Kyle Hendricks. Hendricks struck out the first 2 batters he faced, 2 on, 2 out, right? But then he hits Ian Happ to load the bases. He then walks the next 3 batters he faces, and now the Cubs are down 6-4. So then the Pirates pull Nicholas. They put out Josh Fleming with the bases still loaded and 2 outs. He walks the first batter he faced and gave up a single to Mike Talkman, and the game is tied at 6. Then the skies open up. There's a 2-hour and 20-minute rain delay. Colin Holderman comes back out, still bases loaded and 2 outs. He walks the first 2 batter he faces, and the Cubs are up 8-6 before Nick Madrigal lined out to end the inning. 7 runs would score in that inning, 6 of them, Dustin, on bases loaded walks. Per team historian Ed Hardig, that marked the first time in franchise history that the Cubs have had 6 bases loaded walks in one inning.
Yeah, it had to be some kind of record. There's no doubt about it. And I mean, thankfully this time, as a Cub fan and a Cubs podcast, some of those calls, boy, I mean, the outside, the you want to talk about it, reminded me of Carlos Zambrano. Or who was it? Was it Zambrano? They're squeezing me, man. They're squeezing me. Right? I mean, boy, the umpires were squeezing the strike zone. That's for sure. The Cubs got a couple of gifts, Crawly, but we'll take them.
Yep. Unfortunately, the Cubs bullpen, which I think you described as stinky-ish earlier, couldn't get the important shutdown inning after the Cubs scored 7 runs in the top of the frame. The culprit this time, Keegan Thompson, he gave up a 1-out double to O'Neill Cruz, struck out Edward Alvarez for the second out.
But 2 outs. With 2 outs, it's the 2-out factor. It's crazy.
Right? Then he gives up a home run to Yasmani Grandal, his first of the season. And
of all people,
the Pirates that's his first homer of the season. The Pirates retook the lead 9-8. Tony Andracki put this up a little bit earlier, and it was a really interesting tweet. We were excited when we saw Keegan come back, and what Tony says is, in the first 5 outings, Keegan went 9.2 innings pitched, 3 hits, 0 runs, 3 walks, 0 homers. In his last 4 outings, 3 innings pitched, 8 hits, 7 earned runs, 2 home runs, and 3 walks. So it's gone south for him.
In a hurry, Crawly.
Yep.
South in a hurry.
Dick Lovelady came into the game in the 6th. He gave a solar home run to Andrew McCutchen to make it 10-8.
Does he have to pitch every day? Does he have to pitch every single day?
Well, he's the lefty. That's all they got. So he stayed, and so it's 10-8 going into the 9th, down 2 runs. Miles Mastrobuoni led off the 9th with a double. Yan Gomes would single. PCA would pinch run for Gomes. Mike Talkman hit a sac fly to make it a 1-run game. PCA would steal second with 1 out, but Seiya Suzuki grounded out, and Cody Bellinger lined out. Those are the guys you want up. Cubs lose a wild one, 10-9.
It was a wild game. I was texting with you. I was texting with David Haw. And Haw said to me, this game has been wild, and basically said, the first 1 to 10 is going to win this thing, and he nailed it. It was the first 1 to 10 would end up winning this thing. So at this point, the Cubs and the Pirates are even, and at this point, we still didn't know who was going to start this afternoon, right? When we left that game, he had some thoughts, kind of had some feelings, but ends up being Kyle Hendricks this afternoon.
Yeah, he was activated from the IL. He looked better than the last time we saw him, but that's not too difficult. He went 5 innings pitched, gave up 1 run on 2 hits, 5 Ks, but 4 walks, Dustin.
4 walks, 90. He got up to 94 pitches, I believe, too, right?
Right. The only run he gave up was a solo home run to O'Neill Cruz in the 4th. But, for Hendricks.
O'Neill Cruz.
Oh, yeah. He's unbelievable. Now, with Kyle, though, his game's based on accuracy and control, and it makes me nervous he doesn't have it. I mean, the Pirates have O'Neill Cruz, but there's a lot of guys that are struggling in that lineup. I don't know how he's going to do. I'm sure that Kyle's going to face Pittsburgh again when they come to Chicago, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think I saw, looking ahead, I think he's probably Friday afternoon. Is that right?
Right. That's what I have down, so we'll see. I mean, it's all crazy with all these injuries and everything that's been happening, so... Christopher Morel started this game out with a bang. He hits a 2-run homer in the first. His 9th of the season. The Cubs are up 2-0. Only 3 batters in the NL have more home runs. Dodger teammates Teoscar Hernandez and Shohei Ohtani have 11, and Marcell Ozuna, who we're going to see coming up this week, leads the NL with 12. The Cubs hit the ball hard against starter Bailey Falter, but they didn't have a lot of luck, unfortunately. I mean, this was just ridiculous. Bad BABIP. The BABIP gods weren't on the side. They were hitting balls 97, 98, 100 miles per hour, and nothing was really falling in for them. The defense was making great plays, ran into all sorts of trouble. So with Morel's home run, the Cubs are up 2-0. The O'Neill Cruz homer made it 2-1 in the 4th. And, then they tied it up against Dick Lovelady. And so that's going to take us to the 9th inning. And that's when things really got wacky in this game. It's nonstop wackiness. Ian Happ doubles because that's what he does in Pittsburgh. PCA comes in to replace Ian Happ, who's had hamstring issues, so smart move. Nick Magical grounds out PCA to third. Michael Busch called out on strikes, and so that's 2 outs. Nico Horner walks. He steals second. You got runners at second and third, 2 outs. Seiya grounds out to pitcher David Bednar. And so now you get to the bottom of the 9th. Dustin, I don't know if you listened to Inside the Clubhouse this weekend. They had Hayden Wesniewski on, and Hayden brings up that they call Hector Neris Heart Attack Hector.
Oh yeah, I mean, yep. I think the general manager Carter Hawkins called him Heart Attack Hector with Mully and Haw.
I mean, it's just unbelievable. He comes in. He gets Rowdy Tellez to strike out. Swinging Joey Bart singles on a ground ball to Nico. This was huge right here because, a great defensive play by Nico Horner. Michael A. Taylor advances to second on a balk. Now you got the winning run at second. Edward Alvarez singles. This is the play that Nico stopped. And Coomdog says this all the time in that situation. You can't let the ball get out of the infield. And even though they didn't get an out on that play, it prevented a walk-off win right there. Great play by Nico Horner. But now you got runners at first and second, and that changes when Nick Gonzalez steals second. Hector then falls behind Andrew McCutcheon. They intentionally walk him. Bases loaded, 1 out for Hector Neris. Brian Reynolds grounds into a force out. Neris goes home to Yan Gomes, but they can't get the double play. So O'Neill Cruz is up the bat, Dustin, with the bases loaded.
Bases loaded. Yeah, O'Neill Cruz up. And he
lines out to Cody Bellinger. Oh my God, Dustin, I had to change my drawers after that one. That takes us to the top of the 10th. And, there's Aroldis Chapman comes out, former Cub. Suzuki at second. Bellinger singles to score Seiya, but then he gets caught rounding too quickly off of first, and they get him in a rundown. But the Cubs are up 3-2. Miles Mastroboni flies out, so now there's 2 outs. P-Wiz Patrick Wisdom home run to center field to make it 4-2. Then Mike Tauchman walks. PCA singles. And then Aroldis Chapman has to come out of the game, something with the finger. The first batter that Kyle Nicholas faces, Nick Magical, walks. And then a passed ball makes it 5-2. And you're feeling pretty good. But
really good. You're feeling really good.
Hector Neris comes out of the game, and Dustin, there is no other choice. Adbert Alzolay. O'Neill Cruz at second, and he gives up a home run to Connor Joe to make it a 1-run game.
I mean, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Right? I'm following along. I'm listening to Zach and Coom. Got my earpiece in. I'm at the dance recital, and I'm like trying not to cuss out loud.
I cussed out loud in the car with my wife and my daughter. I apologize for that. And then he walks Jack Sawinski. Luckily, he gets Jared Triolo to ground out. Yasmani Grandal flied out, and Michael A. Taylor lined out. The Cubs do escape. That was, again, there's 2 things that you take a look here, Dustin, when we think about the final thoughts of this series. Number one, the bullpen, and especially Adbert Alzolay. I mean, this just is unbelievable, and eventually it's going to catch up to you. You're not going to win these type of games. They won today, but that's not going to happen. And the other thing I want to say, you mentioned Ian Happ. In 97 career games versus his hometown team, he's batting .317 with 30 doubles, 2 triples, 17 home runs, 63 RBIs. Today, he extended his major league record hitting streak, 62 straight starts, reaching safely against Pittsburgh, dating to September 26, 2018.
That's
Dustin,
pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing.
That's what we need. And I don't care if it's Pittsburgh. I don't care if it's St. Louis. I don't care if it's Atlanta. That's the Ian Happ that we need to see. He needs to pick it up. And it's good to see him extended, but he needs to pick it up, Dustin.
Yeah, and it seems like he does better on the road than he does at home too. It's kind of odd. Just, I mean, I don't have the stats in front of me. I'm not saying that that's like a guarantee 100% that I'm right about that. It just feels like he does better on the road than he does at Wrigley Field, specifically against the Pirates. And then the other team he does really well against is the Reds. He does well
Right.
again. He does well against them as well, and that's he went to college in Cincinnati, so there's the connection. There's the connection there. But hey, listen, again, with all the injuries the Cubs have had, they now have extended the lineup, right? Dansby Swanson, if you're listening to this and not aware, you're not hearing us say anything about Dansby Swanson. He's missing. Seiya is back. So Bellinger was back before. Seiya is back for the Pittsburgh series, but at the same time, they lose Dansby Swanson. So that's why you're hearing Nick Madrigal. That's why you're hearing Miles Mastrobuoni mentioned in this segment. So all things being equal, you and I both thought 2 out of 3 was probably how this series was going to go. And then the fact that Justin Steele had such a clunker, and maybe the Cubs lucked out with that weather delay. Maybe they didn't. But anyway, they lost a game that they could have just as easily swept this series or lost 2 out of 3. So listen, you get out of Pittsburgh. That's the title. The Cubs escaped Pittsburgh, and that's exactly what they did. They took 2 or 3 for the Cubs, and you're feeling pretty good, all things considered. This is episode 39 of season 3 of the Fly the W Cubs podcast, 670 style. It's Crawly, it's Dustin. We're hoping that you had a wonderful weekend, got to spend time with your mom or other mothers in your life. And this episode is called The Cubs Escape Pittsburgh, because that's exactly what they did. They could have easily swept this thing, but they take 2 out of 3. And Crawly now is talking to his buddy, Danny Rockett.
Yeah, it's going to be a really fun event coming up called RanterFest. It's going to be happening at Output and Almost Home during the Cubs homestand, May 31st to June 2nd. There's going to be music, there's going to be trivia, there's going to be prizes. So listen to the interview. It's a great event to help a great cause, the Lost Boyz Inc., helping underprivileged kids in Chicago. Joining me now on the Fly the W podcast, I am so happy he's here on his birthday, Mr. Danny Rockett, a.k.a. Captain Rockett. Danny, how you doing this morning?
There is no place I would rather be than on a Sunday, Mother's Day, birthday morning than with you, Crawly. No, it's I'm doing great. It's beautiful here in Chicago. It's the perfect day. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. I mean, I don't know when you're getting this podcast, but that's when we're doing this. And I don't know. It's just a nice day. I'm in a great mood. There's presents in the other room for me. A giant 5 and 0 balloon because I am 5 years old.
Now, I got to ask you, Danny, you have been doing your podcast, The Son Ranto Show, for many, many years. We're going to talk about celebrating the 1000th episode coming up. But this has been, for me, I guess, one of the weirdest baseball seasons, Cub seasons that I can remember, where you have 13 people on the IL. Every game is either a amazing victory or a earth-shattering defeat. And somehow through all of this, the Cubs are half a game out of first on May 12th. I mean, can you recall a season that's been so, I don't know, like schizophrenic?
Yeah, it's a bit of a head scratcher because I had no idea how we were winning because the starting pitching was supposed to be kind of a strength of this team, but then it was all injured and then it was still good. And so you're like, oh, the depth's okay. So maybe that's not so much of a head scratcher that you're like, hey, some guys stepped up. Imanaga was better than we thought, or as good as we had hoped. Let's put it that way. And but when you're down Seiya and Belly and now Swanson, you're like, how does this team keep winning? I don't know. I mean, the Brewers, you got to hand it to them because nobody expected that out of them either. So it's the whole thing is kind of warped.
I'm wondering if the Cardinal devil magic somehow got sucked into the Brewers, because the Cardinals, I mean, it's looking to me like last year was not a fluke. And, we kind of joked about the AARP rotation and some of the stuff about there. But I mean, Milwaukee, it reminds me of how St. Louis, like it didn't matter who they lost or who they brought up or what happened. Somehow it worked. And now, you see, like I said, Milwaukee, I mean, you lost Brendan Woodruff, you lost Corbin Burns, you got a bunch of kids playing and they're in first place.
Yeah. And it's a very competitive division overall. You look at this Pirates team that we played last night, and really one of the craziest games that I've seen in a while. They walked in like 6 guys in a row with the bases loaded for us. So their bullpen was terrible. Ours was just as bad, has been all year. And, that's the other thing, Crawly, is like how many games could we have won if the bullpen wasn't so atrocious, Adbert Alzolay specifically, but then you lose a guy like Merriweather out of there, and that becomes a huge hole at the back end of your pen. And nobody's really stepped up there in a consistent fashion to take over that closer role. Neris has been pretty much a nail biter situation. So, I mean, it's even my friend Brian, Brian, our Pirates fan friend, we did a post game yesterday for the Sun Ranter show. And he's like, everything I thought was going to be on this team is the opposite. So I thought the hitting was going to be okay. It's been terrible. I thought the bullpen was going to be strength. It's been atrocious, which we saw yesterday. So, I feel like everybody's going through this right now. It's early-ish. Sometimes it takes the first 60 games to really kind of see what you got and get into a real rhythm. Some teams get going hot. You just kind of don't want to lose the season.
And you don't want to fall behind. So, with all the things the Cubs have had, being half a game, that, I always say if you could just get out of April and May, because, God, how many games have we gone to already where you're sitting there wearing your mittens and your winter hats? That's not baseball weather. So if you can get out of April and May and you think about how the Cubs haven't played a lot of home games, they're in relatively good shape. They just got to get healthy.
Yeah. Well, and nice thing is we kind of have some backups coming. PCA has been in there and done a really serviceable job. There's been some disappointments with like Matt Mervis and stuff with his second try not really working out. Canario, I guess it turned into a ghost and evaporated somehow because everybody forgot he existed. Never played, but but you do have the backup for the backup. And even guys that aren't having great years, like Ian Happ off to a super slow start. Dansby Swanson hurt off to a really slow start. And they've been managing to get it done. Anyway, that's a testament to your, hate to say it, Nick Madrigals of the world, who, even though he's been not good, when you plug him in, he's kind of doing some things that are helping you win baseball games here and there.
Well, the reason I wanted to have you on the podcast is you are having a big event at the beginning of June, end of May, beginning of June, to celebrate the Sun Ranto Show's 1,000th episode. And this is done by our friend Matt Kammerer. For those of you on the 670 The Score YouTube channel, it is RanterFest, May 31st to June 2nd. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about what this is all about?
Well, yeah, we're going to be actually raffling off the original RanterFest Matt Kammerer artwork. That he's sending that to me this week. So RanterFest is really more of a we than a me. And here's the thing is, over the years with the Sun Ranto show, we've been going for 12 years since before the season in 2013. And we all remember what a stellar year that was for the Cubs. But that's when we got going, and we got all the way through the exciting years of 15, 16, when we're playoff bound and going to the World Series and winning it and all that stuff. And then Blue Friday. And so we've really rode the whole roller coaster for the last 12 years. That we've ridden that with all the other fans and other Cubs podcasts. And when we kind of got to this milestone, which, by the way, is a total BS milestone, Crawly, yourself from having been on the Sun Ranto show for a few years, that even in the pandemic year of the 60-game season, we did 120 shows plus just that year. So we weren't really counting those. They were going out to our Patreon supporters. They were going out different places. We were combining them into shows. So it really is more than that. But our current RSS feed is just about to hit 1,000, and we're on our third RSS feed. That's how long we've been around. So anyway, we decided that because so many people have been involved with our show, so many guests that we've had on, so many comedians and musicians and fans of other teams and Cubs bloggers and other podcasters, that, really, when I started to sit down and make a list of all the different Cubs podcasts and people that had come on our show, the list would fill up almost home where we're having one of the events of RanterFest, because there's been so many people that have touched us, and even like our listeners and what they brought to the table, and all of the Cubs caroling events and the John Baker days. Like, it is just endless. So it's been a while since we've thrown a big party. So we decided to throw a big Cubs fan party on the weekend of May 31st through June 2nd. May 31st starts post game. Well, actually, it starts pre-game. We're going to meet at Nisei Lounge. We're going to go to the game, and then post game, we're going to have hilarious comedians over at Output Lounge, which is just north on Clark. We're just north of Wrigley Field. And headlining that one is Joe Kilgallen, who's a big Cubs fan, very funny, friend of ours. And then a guy that's come on to my podcast a bunch, Eric Wheelo, who's
my nemesis,
a Brewers fan and Crawly's nemesis. Very funny insult comedian. I told him to really stick it to Cubs fans during his set, and he will. And I told him to stick it to Crawly because Crawly will be at this event, I believe, if he can make it out of work in time. And then Billy DeVore, he's got a show called New Nasty Boys with a guy named Chris Weir, also very funny comedians. They're both going to be performing at this, as is our friend Ken Schultz, who writes for Outsports, big Cubs fan as well. And then a performance by the Bleacher Bum Band, which is my band with Bleacher Jeff and Guy Sirius, and we actually have a new drummer for this one. We are like Spinal Tap. I know, dude. It's really incredible. But luckily, we found a guy. We rehearsed with him yesterday. Looks like it's going to work out, so we're all excited. Anyway, we're going to play a short set after that as well. It's going to be a big party. It costs $15 to come to it. $20 if you want a VIP guaranteed table, like right up front to watch this thing. They've got delicious chicken wings, which Crawly can attest to. All the beer that you could want in the world, and just the nicest, most welcoming bar on that strip. I think Output Lounge is it's great. Eddie over there and Sean and their whole staff is incredible. So come on over there on May 31st for that show. And if you can't come to that, the next day is really the main event. June 1st, what we're going to be doing, because we're not up to 1,000 episodes yet. We're at like 993 or something like that. So what we're doing is, instead of like doing a live podcast, which nobody can ever hear, and it's boring. If you've ever been to this stuff, it's dull. So what we're doing is we're throwing a party with some kind of some focused sort of activities. We're going to have a performance from our friend Miguel Esparza, who's going to sing a couple Elvis songs for us. I asked him to do. John Benedict's going to perform. He's the Wrigley Field organist. I'll probably do a song or two. In fact, Crawly requested a very special song, and me and Nicole, my wife, are going to perform it together. Can you?
And I'm going to be doing an interpretive dance to it.
Yeah, Crawly's going to do an interpretive dance, and then he's going to sing "Africa" by Toto, an abridged version. Don't worry. I'm already in the editing room trying to get that thing as short as possible, and to still get the meat of the song out there. And then we got tons of raffles and prizes. We're going to play some games. We're going to have a thing. I don't know if you can swear on the show. The B clock. Fill in the B.
Yeah, you can say it, dude.
The bitch clock. We're doing the bitch clock. So that means it's the spinning wheel of Cubs fan grievances. We're going to have Sarah Sanchez, who is the current bitch clock freaking champion, because she's a debate champion. And we're just going to have a lot of fun. It's going to, I don't know. We're going to play pin the tail on Clark. I don't know what we'll do.
Well, you can pin something else for Clark.
I know. Yeah. Well, they did that a few years ago. And then, how about pin the pants on Clark? We'll play pin the pants on Clark. That actually is a really good idea. I just thought of that. Let's do it. We're Club 400 is going to be there, and we're going to be raffling off a ticket to the 1984 event, which is going to be a huge reunion out in Lake in the Hills. It's going to be incredible at the end of June, right? June.
It's going to be in June. It's going to be June 25th. 25th. And so the thing to keep in mind, Danny, is that if you win that raffle, because Stewart's generously donating that, there's going to be, right now, they have over, I want to say 13 1984 Cubs members booked on that event. But tickets go for $300. And, if you can't swing that, this is an opportunity to maybe be able to win tickets to go to that event.
Oh yeah. And that's going to be incredible. I'm going to be performing at that. And we're going to, Crawly, you and I we got to sing for those guys. Those are our dudes from way back in the day. And, so we've got that raffled off. Tom Warman from Colexor is furnishing some prizes for the event. He's got some great stuff. You know him. He's a big game used aficionado. And check out Colexor. I know you've had him on the show. I've had him on Sun Ranto's show. Really great idea.
My memorabilia collection is actually, I've been putting it up on Colexor, so you could see like my stuff.
Which is so cool because it's such a great idea. It's like Facebook for collectors, in the fact that you could see each other's. collections, because normally it's just stuck in your basement. Nobody can see it. And this is a way to share it with the world, all the cool stuff you have. Yeah, I got a couple things up there, like my first night game poster that I stole out of the Chicago Tribune box back in 1988. I was like, and of course I stuck it to my wall in safety pins and ruined any value it might have once had. But so he's furnishing some stuff. Club 400, Ballhawk Dave. He's going to give us some jewelry for the event and donate some things. So I'm just super excited about everybody. In the clutch shirts, obvious shirts is going to be involved. So we just got everybody, and it's all of the different blogs and podcasts where we invited them and asked them to be a part of this, to come and just be fellowship with us. Like, we're all Cubs fans. We all kind of do the same thing. We're all talking about the Cubs all the time. And besides Cubs convention, there really isn't a time during the season that is a focused moment where we can all get together and party. So that's what we're going to do.
The interesting thing about it, like you said, it's like a meeting of the tribes. And there was a time pre-COVID when the Cubs would do that. It would be social media night. And that was from like 2013 until I think 2019 was the last one. And there hasn't been anything since. So this is going to be a time for everybody, like you said, to kind of get together. And then that's also the Christopher Morel bobblehead game. So you can get tickets to the game and you get your Christopher Morel bobblehead, which is going to be awesome. And then Sunday, it's going to be just a little bit of relaxation, some 16-inch softball.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I may have to switch this up a little bit, because I called pretty much every single park in Chicago. And according to our friend Bleacher Tony Spangenberg, he said that pretty much every league in the city snatches up every baseball field sometime in February for the entire summer. And I was like, okay. So I went out scoping. So I did find some sites where I think we could do it, including up by my mom's apartment building, right up on Foster. There's a huge open field there. And I think we could just play up there, because unless somebody's really good at socking the ball hard with that 16-inch softball, there should be plenty of room. But I think we're going to show up with a wiffle ball bat just in case and a wiffle ball just in case we need to take up a little less real estate. But the most important thing about the event is we're going to try not to get hurt, and we're going to eat donuts.
And, Danny, when you're talking about the price of tickets, it's important, and the raffles and all that stuff, it's important to know that money is going to the Lost Boyz and our friend Levante Stewart, who's been on your show. He's been on my show, just doing so. He just got an award the other day. I mean, what he does for underprivileged youth in the city of Chicago, I'm just glad to see him getting the recognition he deserves. So the proceeds to this event are going to go to help the Lost Boyz.
100% of the proceeds. I just want to put that out. We're not a 501c3. We're not a charity. But, there's obviously costs involved in throwing a big party. And because there is cost in throwing a big party, we want some of that money that comes in to go straight to the Lost Boyz. And all the performers at this event know about this and want to be involved because of it. In fact, the videographer that's going to be filming footage for our 1000th episode throughout the weekend, he's donating his time as well. So we're all donating our time, where the venues are donating their venues for us to party there. So every dime for the entrance. So that's why we're even charging. Otherwise, it would just be like, hey, it's free. It's a party. But we are trying to raise money for the raffles. Collector, Club 400, they're all donating all these prizes so that we can raise a lot of money for the Lost Boyz. We give 10% of all of our Patreon money that we get through the Son Ranto show to Lost Boyz. So we've been working with them since 2020 when we threw John Baker Day for them. There's currently a hat for sale. There's going to be T-shirts for sale at the event, as well as before the event. All proceeds will go to Lost Boyz. So just know that this is not a way for us to like make a bunch of money and then go party in the bleachers and drink $20 beers, which is what they cost now. But no, this is a way that we're trying to get back to our community here in Chicago. And I've worked down at Lost Boyz a bunch. I've played music with those kids down there. Levante does great work exposing these kids to everything that this city has to offer, including baseball, and having a place to go after school, before school, on Saturdays. Like, he's there for them and is a great positive influence in their life. We just want to help them out, and that's what we do.
So, I mean, this is just an opportunity for our listeners that if you've ever wanted to kind of meet some of the people that you see on social media or listen to on blogs, this is a chance to just kind of meet and greet. And if you've ever done these kind of things, it's really fun to meet us in real life, I guess, is that, we're just Cub fans, deep down at heart who just kind of take our passion and create different content. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. And Danny, where can our listeners go if they would like to buy a ticket to RanterFest?
We'll go to sonranto.com/ranterfest, sonranto.com/ranterfest. And there are tickets there. You can buy the whole weekend for $50. That's the VIP, gets you table service and everything. By the way, everything's going to come with a little swag. We got wristbands, we got stickers, also, you can get in for much cheaper, $15, $20, that kind of thing. If you don't care, if you want to wrestle somebody for a seat. I don't think I mentioned that the Saturday is at Almost Home. That's up on Grace and Clark. So that's not the same. Output Lounge is on Friday. Almost Home is on Saturday. They've got great food. We have meet and greet starting at noon, and they've got delicious food. The idea is to kind of come and eat lunch there. They're going to have some food and drink specials for us.
Right across from Obvious Shirts.
Right across from Obvious Shirts. And then we'll kind of get the quote unquote show part of the party going. 120. Maybe that's a good time to get things started, I think. So, yeah, it's just going to be a fun weekend, and everybody's invited. We just want to celebrate with everybody and enjoy the fact that we're all Cubs fans. And like you said, Christopher Morel bobblehead. It's going to be a big game.
It's going to be fun. And Danny, I appreciate you putting this all together and your generosity, especially to the Lost Boyz. Again, tip of the hat to you guys just putting this together, because it is an absolute ton of work to kind of put all these moving pieces together. And again, I encourage our listeners to head on out there. I will be there. Danny will be there. There'll be a who's who of Cubs social media personalities on there, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope to see everyone out there. Danny, I appreciate you taking some time on your 50th birthday.
How about that, huh? Who would have thought? I've been trying. I thought I was going to die at 27, like, the 27 club. And now I'm almost double that. Like, it's incredible.
Now you're in the AARP club, my friend.
I know. I've been getting the letters. It's incredible. I can't wait. I'm going to get my discounts on at Denny's. It's going to be incredible. Early bird special. It's a coming.
Don't let this guy fool you, though. He can still rock, as the Bleacher Bum Band can attest to. And so, Danny, thank you for jumping on here, and we will provide a link to the ticket page when this episode drops.
Right on. Thanks, Crawly.
This is the Fly the W670 podcast. It is season 3. It is episode 39. The Cubs escape Pittsburgh. They do take 2 out of 3. Don't forget to leave Crawly and I one of those 5-star reviews. Of course, we want you to subscribe. We want you to like it. We want you to give a 5-star review. You can see us on all the socials. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter. You can email Crawly and I, flythew670@gmail.com. So, Crawly, after taking 2 of 3 from the Buccos, the Pittsburgh Pirates, how do the Cubs look in the standings? There they are for everybody watching us on YouTube.
Yep, Milwaukee's 23-15, Cubs 23-16. So again, we're talking 0.015 percentage points. Cubs half a game back. Because of those losses, Cincinnati has leapfrogged Pittsburgh, and they are in third place, 17-21. Pittsburgh 17-22, and the lowly Cardinals in the basement at 15-23. Wah, wah.
And as we like to say, it never gets old saying that, right?
Nope, no tears shed for the Cardinals.
All right, so that's how the standings are. Now, we have mentioned a little bit in the first segment about the injury bug biting the Cubs, and it continues to do so with Dansby Swanson. They've got a hit to the bullpen as well.
Yeah, a lot of roster news, and most of it's bad. We found out, like we said, Jamison Tyone back stiffness, so that moved Assad start to Friday and Steele to Saturday. Council does expect Tyone to pitch Tuesday against the Braves. Seiya Suzuki, yay, he's off the IL, coming back from an oblique strain that landed him there on April 15th. The bad news, Dansby Swanson was on the IL. We heard that Swanson hurt his knee sliding on a steal on April 25th versus Houston. He got the day off Wednesday, and the Cubs had an off day Thursday. They were hoping that would be enough, but no such luck. On Saturday,
This break might be okay, right? Like he might have needed a little bit of a break.
Yeah, and I'm glad he didn't fight it, rather than trying to struggle through it. It was a smart move, so I'm glad
And I'm
the right
sure,
decision was made.
right, and I'm sure though that he would like to be facing the Braves coming up the start of this week. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, and so on Saturday, Yency Almonte was put on the IL with a right shoulder strain. Counsel said that Almonte didn't recover well from his last outing. Jose Cuas was recalled from AAA, but Dustin Almonte has been one of the Cubs' most reliable bullpen arms lately.
Well,
It's a big loss.
recently he's been, he's been the guy that you had hoped for when the Cubs brought him in here during the offseason. Didn't start off great, but the last 2 weeks been pretty solid.
Yep. And then on Sunday, Kyle Hendricks was activated from the 15-day IL with his lower back issue, and Jose Cuas was optioned to AAA. So a very quick weekend for Jose Cuas, but I'm sure he's still traveling with the team. But Dustin, you talked about the injuries right here. This is from Megan Montemurro. Follow her on Twitter. But Yency Almonte is the 13th Cub player to spend time in the IL. Crazy. That is Dansby Swanson, Cody Bellinger, Seiya Suzuki, Patrick Wisdom, Jamison Tyone, Kyle Hendricks, Justin Steele, Jordan Wicks, Drew Smiley, Daniel Palencia, Julian Merriweather, and Caleb Killian. And Megan added on to this, to contextualize the volume of injuries. The Cubs have faced 6 weeks and 39 games into the season, all these injuries. There are only 2 comparable years, according to team historian Ed Hardick, 2021 and 2022. So it feels like the injury bug the last 3 years hasn't just been biting the Cubs, it's been eating the Cubs. I think the big difference right now, Dustin, is this is as deep a Cubs team that they've been able to absorb it, but this is still a ton to absorb.
Yeah, a ton to absorb, but the good news is, as you just mentioned, they're still just a half a game out. They're just percentage points out of first place. And again, the Brewers have had quite a few injuries as well, so it's not like they are all that and all healthy. But we'll see what happens. I mean, let's cross our fingers as we like to do and hope for the best. But yeah, the injury bug has been very unkind to our Cubs, to say the least.
Right. And now you're stepping up in class because you're going to see the Atlanta Braves. Dustin, you couldn't have had a much better season than they did in the 2023, at least the regular season. Finished first place in the NL East with a record of 104-58. On September 10th, the Braves were the first team in baseball to clinch a playoff spot. On the 12th, they broke the National League record for most home runs in a season with 281. On September 13th, they clinched the National League East for the 6th consecutive season. And on September 26th, the Braves reached their 300th home run of their season, just becoming the 3rd team in MLB history to do so. Unfortunately for the Braves, the postseason wasn't great. They were defeated in 4 games in the NLDS by the Philadelphia Phillies, the same team that defeated them the previous season. Outfielder Ronald Acuna was awarded the NL MVP at the end of the season, posting the first ever 40-70 season. The Cubs played the Braves 6 times last year, with Atlanta taking 4 of 6. The Cubs took 2 of 3 from the Braves at Wrigley when they were their hottest in August. The only loss came in Game 1 when Kyle Hendricks gave up 7 runs in the 4th inning, and the Cubs were shut out 8-0. But Kyle Hendricks is awful career-wise against the Braves, from his best to his worst. Never.
This is probably why you saw him pitch today, right? That's probably why they did what they did, and that's a smart move, because now you've got, and I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing what Yamamoto, what they can do, right? Imanaga, what he's going to do Monday night against an elite team and on the road.
Right. And if you remember last year, the Cubs then went to Atlanta at the end of the season and they were swept. That was in Game 1. Justin Steele and the Cubs had a 6-0 lead. The Braves came back to make it a 6-5 game. Seiya Suzuki dropped the fly ball in the bottom of the 8th to allow 2 runs to score. The Cubs lost 7-6. That loss allowed Milwaukee to clinch the Central. The Cubs still had a chance on the wild card, but on the next night, the Cubs blew another lead as Atlanta walked it off in the 10th. They got swept in the 3rd game, and that put the Cubs' postseason chances on life support.
And those were supposed to be games that the Braves didn't need, remember, right?
Yep. And again, you had two unbelievable, one was that 8th inning drop fly ball and another walk-off. So those were 2 games you should have had. In the offseason, the Braves added 2 former Southsiders, Chris Sale and Reynaldo Lopez. They also added left fielder Jared Kelenic. Their key losses: Kelenic replaces Eddie Rosario, starting pitcher Kyle Wright and relief pitcher Nick Anderson are no longer on the team. This season, Dustin, the Braves are currently 24-12 in second place behind the Phillies, who are at 28-12. The Braves have been rained out a few times, and they play tonight on Sunday Night Baseball. They've taken the first 2 out of 3 series from the Mets and are going for the sweep against New York.
Well, let's hope it gets like rain delayed and they're a little fatigued, and the Cubs will be getting there not too late with the afternoon game, not too far of a flight from Pittsburgh down to Atlanta. So, all right, so that's the background on the Braves. What are we looking at for the overall series? I mentioned it a little bit ago. Game 1 tomorrow night. You'll hear it on the score, and we got Shota Imanaga throwing
versus Reynaldo Lopez. Dustin, this is the game we said we played.
That name should be familiar to Chicago sports fans.
Yep, another South Sider. That said we talked about we were going to pay close attention to this game. Shota's 5-0 this season with a 1.08 ERA. He's had 43 strikeouts and 41.2 innings pitched. But remember, his last start on May 7th in San Diego, Counsell had him come back out in the 8th after throwing 95 pitches. He gave up a 2-run homer that tied the game and pulled him out with 102 pitches. He did get a little extra rest this weekend, Dustin, but let's see what happens with Shota. Let's watch that carefully.
That's going to be very curious, right? It's going to, he got the extra rest, but he did pitch a lot more than he ever has so far this season.
Yep. Reynaldo Lopez, the former Southsiders, a righty who signed with the Braves this offseason. And just like Imanaga has been great for the Cubs, Reynaldo Lopez is 2-1 with a 1.53 ERA. He has 36 Ks and 35 innings pitched. In his last start against Boston, he went 5.1 innings. He gave up 1 run on 6 hits, 4 walks, and 5 Ks. He relies on a 4-seamer and a slider. No Cubs have more than 5 at-bats against Reynaldo Lopez. Ian Happ is 0 for 5.
All right. Well, what do you think? Ian Happ maybe gets that night off, and you get that Tauchman, Bellinger, Suzuki outfield that I've been preaching a little bit.
Let's see. Let's see what happens. Now in game 2, Jamison Tyone is supposed to make the start versus Chris Sale. So
supposed to make the start, right? Supposed to make the start. He's dealing with a back, or what is he dealing with?
Yeah, he's dealing with lower back stiffness.
Which is what also delayed him starting the season on time, correct?
Correct. And so Jamo's started 4 games. He has a record of 3-0. He has 16 strikeouts and 24 innings pitched. In his last start against Milwaukee, Jamo went 6 innings pitched, gave up 2 hits, 2 walks, and 7 Ks. Orlando Arcia is 4-10 against him. Adam Duvall 6 for 27, and Marcell Ozuna is 5 for 15. Chris Sale was acquired by the Braves this offseason in a trade. He's looking like his old self after struggling with injuries a whole bunch in Boston over the last few years. He's 5-1 in 7 starts with a 2.95 ERA with 52 Ks and 42.2 innings pitched.
Not liking this pitching matchup, Crawly. Not liking it at all.
In his last start against his former team, the Red Sox, Sale pitched 6 scoreless innings, gave up 6 hits, 1 walk, and struck out 10 Boston hitters. Almost no Cubs have at-bats against him. Bellinger has 3 at-bats, Tauchman 2. The only one that's seen him a lot is Yan Gomes. He's 7 for 26. Sale's a lefty. He throws a slider primarily and a 4-seamer off that slider. Tough matchup.
Tough matchup. And then game number 3.
It's the Cubs still have it as TBD, but it's looking like it's going to be Hayden Wesneski versus right-hander Charlie Morton. Hayden has been pitching really well. He's 2-1 in 3 games started with a 1.59 ERA, 17 strikeouts and 22.2 innings. He lost his last start. He gave up 3 runs on 7 hits to the Padres in 6 innings, but he's been really solid ever since he's been called up, and he's starting to go deeper into games. No Braves have more than 3 at-bats against Hayden. And then Charlie Morton is still going, 40 years old. He's 3-0 in 7 starts with a 3.14 ERA, 40 strikeouts and 43 innings pitched. Hasn't give up more than 2 runs in his last 4 games. In his last start against the Mets, he went 7 innings pitched, gave up 1 run, 3 hits, 1 walk, and 7 Ks. A lot of Cubs haven't faced Morton. Cody Bellinger 6 for 17, Yan Gomes 3 for 11, and Ian Happ 1 for 8. Charlie Morton is known for his curveball, the old Uncle Charlie. He throws a 4-seam fastball and the occasional changeup.
Well, you just mentioned Cody Bellinger being 6 of 17 against Charlie Morton, and I guarantee that Cody Bellinger is part of the Cubs hot list.
Yeah, when we take a look at who is hot and who is not, Cody Bellinger is definitely on the hot list. He's looking really good lately. He's 8 for 22 with 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, slashing 364, 417 with 727 slug. Also on the hot list, Christopher Morel is 6 for 22 with 2 home runs and 6 RBIs. He's heating up. He was really doing bad, but now he's slashing 273, 292, 545 slug. So those guys are hot. Unfortunately, on the knot, you have Ian Happ. I mean, he did get on base, but he's 4 for his last 23 with no home runs and 1 RBI. He's slashing 174, 269, 261. Michael Busch is 3 for his last 18 with the home run and 2 RBIs, 11 strikeouts to 3 walks. He's slashing 167, 286, 389.
All right. So we also talked about some of the, the Braves lineup is just absolutely stacked, but who are some people that outside of the obvious, maybe Crawly, that Cubs fans need to watch out for?
Well, Marcell Ozuna, like I said, is leading the National League in home runs. He's 6 for his last 14 with 2 home runs and 5 RBIs. He is slashing 429, 500, 929. Just look out for that guy. The other guy is Jared Kelenic, who they got in the offseason. He's been hitting really well lately. He's 3 for his last 8 with 1 home run, 2 RBIs. He's slashing 375, 750. But Dustin, the names on the cold list are the ones that surprised me when I looked at them. Ozzie Albies is 2 for his last 14 with 1 home run and 1 RBI, slashing 143, 294, 357. And how about Ronald Acuna, the lowest batting average on the lineup in the last 7 days? He is 2 for his last 16 with the home run and 2 RBIs. He's slashing 125, 222, 313. Ozzie Albies and Ronald Acuna terrorized the Cubs, so I'm hoping that they stay cold.
Yes, let's hope. All right, prediction time. I will go first on this one. I will say that the Cubs will not get swept. The Cubs won't get swept, but they're also not going to win this series. They will take one of the 3, and these are all night games, no day game, no getaway day. 1 out of 3, but honestly, I'm not even sure at the time of this podcast at 5:09 on Sunday which one I like the Cubs to win. Maybe the third game, but not digging the pitching matchups.
I'm going to agree with you. I want to be contrary, but I can't. Taking 2 games from Reynaldo Lopez, Chris Sale, and even Charlie Morton, even though he's older and not as good as he used to be, I think he's going to give some of the young Cubs fits with that curveball. So I just hope they just take 1. That's my goal.
All right, that's a wrap. Don't forget to listen, download, subscribe, and of course, leave Crawly and I one of those 5-star reviews. Don't forget, all week long when we're not here for you, you can follow us on all the social media. Crawly's great on the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Email Crawly and I, flythew670@gmail.com. If you want to see some of these great stats that we're putting up during the show, make sure to watch us on the Score YouTube channel. Crawly, good luck with the last couple of weeks of school. Happy Mother's Day again to all the mothers out there. Without you, we would be nothing. So we thank you and hope you've had a great day. And now you're listening to the Cubs podcast, and we'll thank the Cubs for winning for all you moms out there on Mother's Day and taking 2 out of 3. That's a wrap of season number 3, episode number 39. The Cubs escape Pittsburgh, and now they are on to Atlanta to take on the Braves.
Dustin, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. Go Cubs! Hey guys, it's Crawly. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Go Cubs!